Good to be heading back down the road with you. A couple of things going to happen today. David Hamilton's going to join us. We're going to talk to him about Russia. We're going to talk to him about where things are going with Ukraine. Are we headed to war? Are they headed to war? Are we interested in even having their back? We'll talk about that. Also, we're going to get a chance to visit with Greg Mackling. Now, Greg, well, he's an expert when it comes to what's happening in Canada. Obviously, that affects here on the northern border. Are we getting our goods? Are we getting our services? Are we getting what we need to build things? In fact, Shelley Armato is joining us right now. She's the CEO, which means she's the boss. She's the big gun with MySmartPlans. Shelley, good to have you coming down the road with us.
Thank you, sir. How are you?
Oh, all day long I've been behaving so far. Small
That's
steps.
a problem. Okay.
Small steps. Tell people where you said you were when we were talking off air a little bit.
Well, I'm actually in Florida, Clearwater Beach. I'm actually at a 5-star resort, and I have had so many requests this week that I just have improvised. So Two things there. Number one, you're taking time out of your vacation to spend with us on down the road. So thank you. Number two, you're in Florida and you never called and invited us. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. 30 below wind chill is what we've been dealing with on some of this. So want to talk a little bit about MySmartPlans. Tell people what that is. Well, MySmartPlans has revolutionized the construction industry. We have allowed for the public to hold the project accountable, created fair play on the project, as well as not low bid, but actually fair bid. So we've radically transformed an industry.
I have to tell you, my daughter needed you so bad. She really did. And I think what's exciting as a man who grew up with 5 sisters and had 2 daughters, and those are the only 2 kids I have, and out of my 6 grandkids, 5 of those are girls. I have to tell you, I like the fact that this is a certified woman-owned business. Tell people about that, if you would.
Well, it sounds really romantic, like, oh, it's a certified woman-owned business. If anyone understood what it took for me to be a certified woman-owned business, they would probably think, and you did it anyway. It's something I never bring to the project. People bring us on the project because of our deliverable, not because of my certification. But it's been a very abusive conversation because of that certification. But I'm going to fight anyway. I'm going to stand up and say, hey, I'm a woman and I figured this out. So sit down.
Yeah, I love that. And I'm sorry to inject it into our conversation, but
okay.
Maybe somebody watching this will click with them. So I really appreciate that. Want to talk about costs. Recent data from the U.S. Census Bureau. It showed that construction costs went, up and up, talking about 17.5% over the year. Tell people about what the heck is going on here, Shelley.
Well, it's really interesting to an average person. They're thinking, well, the cost of my refrigerator went up and the cost of my sink went up. But actually, in that equation is about the cost of construction litigation and overrun. So it is a huge chronic problem that the government and the private sector just keeps throwing money at these projects and hoping that finally they'll get what they paid for. But my company reinvented that whole idea, like the Uber. Whenever the Uber came into the taxi market, we streamlined everything. So I've been doing this for 15 years, and I totally want to have a Netflix series about, come on, man. I mean, you can't just change documents because my company is the gatekeeper of all the data. So you can't change documents anymore. And some of the stuff that people ask us to do as a gatekeeper is just a whole Netflix series. I mean, it is alarming.
Part of the data that I just threw out there is 20 to 21, but you look back at 19, the numbers are even worse. Let me throw some questions that I'm hearing from people on my radio show and here after they watch my TV show, which is this. This is all Joe Biden's fault. Number one. Number two, if we could actually allow people to truck product, we could solve this problem. I could give you 3 and 4, but let's start with 1 and 2.
Well, I don't think I want to bring politics into my conversation, but that's the whole chronic problem of construction is finger pointing, and it's shame. It's the shame blame game. Blame the contractor, blame the architect, blame the bank, blame somebody. But actually, whenever you become a smart consumer and you start investigating and figuring out that the blame resides on the chaos and the confusion that's created in the marketplace of construction. So I can't speak to, the political side of it because it's an ambiguous conversation. I don't have facts that I can back up, but I do have facts in the $15 billion worth of projects that I have managed and organized. I can speak to that specifically.
Well, let's talk about that. Let's talk to it. Give me examples of just exactly what you're getting at.
Okay. Well, our very first project was in 2007. My husband was the largest commercial painting contractor for 45 years in Kansas City. He was 19 when he purchased his father's company. I'm not going to say this word right because I have it mixed up. They were artisans. I called them artisans at a conference one day, and this gentleman's like, those artisans make beer. And I'm like, please forgive me. I got it wrong. But anyway, so Dominic he is Mr. Kansas City. I mean, still, we were just in Manhattan last week and someone hollered at him across the airport because everybody knows Dominic. But in 2007, he bid a project and the general contractor basically laid him down, took all the profits and laughed in his face and said, ha ha, what are you going to do about it? So I have to be honest, my husband was devastated. I don't come from the construction world. I come from a business world completely different. And I asked Dominic, like, what happened, Dominic? And he said, well, I don't know, Shelley. I mean, they give me the documents to bid and I do the best I can do. I manage and blah, blah, blah. Well, anyway, so our very first project that we thought we were going to help the subcontractors. That was our mission, like help the subcontractors manage all the documents. The general contractor changed the specification behind the owner's back, which was a hospital. And the bid came in, and I think the number was like 70 times higher. I don't remember exact numbers, but it was atrocious. And so the owner called Dominic and said, hey, have you heard there's a shortage of glaziers in Kansas City? Because my glass bid is really high, and they're telling me, general contractor, that there's a shortage of glaziers. And so Dominic said, well, actually, Bob, for the first time in 2 seconds, I can give you that answer. Just search the specs for warranties. And sure enough, the general contractor changed the warranty from a 7-year to a 50-year warranty because he was building his world headquarters in Kansas City, and he was setting precedents on the back of this non-for-profit hospital because they can always just get more money. They have donors. That project finished 3 months ahead of schedule. We went to the races. I mean, literally, we came out of the gate just swinging like, wait a minute. This was not a mistake. This is really what happens. And so I could go down every single project and tell you what the contractor is doing to maximize his profits, create chaos, and take our money, because a lot of these are government funded projects that we have no defense other than to just throw more money at them. So
when you look at some of these and you look at the increases, though, I mean, 50-year, that's ridiculous. I don't know anybody that's going to, how do you even know how to gauge? How would your husband even know how to say, look, I can budget for this? Not only that, but will I be in business 50 years from now? That you talk about self-centered a little bit, but
so many things.
Yeah, the volatility though of the material I've built or attempted to in the last year, and just getting what I needed to build has just been so hard, and it shows up in every bit. It really does. And what they tell me, Shelley, is that they won't give me a hard price, that I have to live with whatever their price is by the time they start. Are you seeing that around, and would you recommend that to anyone to sign on the dotted line with that agreement?
The answer that I would love to give is I would not recommend that. But what they're going to do is they're going to have the general contractor, depending on what kind of project you're building, they're going to have 52 lawyers. I'm exaggerating, a lot of lawyers. They're going to have a lot of people. And what they're going to do is they're going to confuse you so you don't even know what the original price even was. So it's just confusion, chaos, and manipulation. And I mean, one of the Corps of Engineers projects was $400 million over budget. And I'm not exaggerating, 400 million. And this is a thing that's sick. They still had their ribbon cutting and they still got their awards and they still blah, blah, blah. It was 400 million. And they can't point to the steel price because that wasn't 400 million. They can't point to what it is. So they create stories that appease us into believing that, it was inflation. I mean, it was a shortage of contractors. It was called the ability for you to manipulate the documents and hide conveniently what needed to be converted into deliverables. And it is a crooked, I don't even want to say it. Honestly, people have asked me if I have bodyguards. I'm not exaggerating. I don't. I don't right now. I still like to go to Target. I still like to sit on the beach and people not recognize me. But this $3 trillion budget that's coming out. I mean, I laugh. I shouldn't say I laugh, but the NFL, they say, "Come on, man." This is what I'm saying all the time. Like, come on, man. Can't we do better? Yeah. Because that's really what's happening.
So you take a project, and I've worked in construction before. I worked in media, and you take a construction, and you've got a hard number, and the engineer usually gives you a, in my case, it was a 7% above, 7% below, and usually he covered his butt by making sure he was 7% above, and so we'd all high five and go off for a beer immediately following the bid opening. Now you're telling me I have absolutely no idea. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Yeah, I'm telling you that the risk is unmeasurable. I'm telling you, one of my clients, it was a $1 billion project. I went as the owners. So the legal team brought us on and said, you guys cannot afford to litigate. You need to have her software. And because it's not software, it's us and our people. So we're digital librarians on the project. And we went to Capitol Grill. And it was 5 contractors, the owner's rep, who was a gentleman that was like, I think he was 43. I'm 58, so I consider him young. And we were sitting at Capitol Grill, and here came what I call the Tower of Terror now. And it was this huge tower of food. And the conversation was, do you want a dirty martini? I'm going to call his name George. George, you want a dirty martini? And George is like, yeah, I'm like really important here. Of course. 4 martinis later, I was the only woman at the table, and I drank 1 glass of wine because I still like red wine. But anyway, and then I thought, you know what? I'm just going to be aware of what's going on. And the significance, they raped this man. I mean, they're like, hey, George, we watched your son play football. We think he's going to be in the NFL. George says, yeah, are you kidding me? Yeah, he is really good. No, sir, he is not really good. He's the only thing we can talk about here to make you think we're your friend. So anyway, 4 martinis later, the question to George was, what's the real number? What's the real number, George? Well, George is the owner's rep. He works for the owner. And George is like, and I said, oh, wait, George is not going to say this number right now. And I mean, here, I'm an outsider. I didn't even know anyone at the table. I was the first meeting with George. And we left, and I said, George, I don't think you should talk about that. And he's like, oh, no. But they got him blind drunk. And if I wouldn't have been sitting there, the real number would have been put out on the table. And guess what that general contractor would have done? He would have hit that real number times 700, even though the budget was whatever. What's the real number? What's your contingency? Yeah. Well, our clients get their contingency back. We just finished a Corps of Engineers project 3 months ahead of schedule, no modifications. And the life cycle management turned over because, it's not building the project, it's the life cycle of the project. So I'm going to use this, I'm going to take it down to the minuscule. So you bought a refrigerator for your new house, and they gave you this new brand called, I don't even know, Hubba Hubba. I'm making that up. And Hubba Hubba is this very fancy Hubba Hubba water dispenser. You've never seen Hubba Hubba, and it breaks the second day you close on your house. Well, you need the warranty on Hubba Hubba because you need to find out, was this a warrantable item, or is this just something that I need to go buy another refrigerator? Right. In construction, you got to know all of this. This is not just a one-time thing.
Shelley, so many great points, not enough time. Where can people find your work?
My website's MySmartPlans.com. My cell phone number is actually on that site because I want to talk to you.
Yeah.
I want to talk about like what you can do to protect yourself.
Well, you're young to me. I'm 60, and the biggest problem I have is I didn't talk to you sooner. So thank you, Shelley. Thanks for taking time out for us.